By producing a staggering 80% of the world's counterfeit goods, China's copycat culture has become the most famous in the world. From luxury gadgets and fashion to cheap snacks and food, there's an identical Chinese version of just about anything. Imitation may be the greatest form of flattery, but some bootleggers know no bounds when it comes to ripping off a good idea. With that, let's take a look at some of the most side-splitting Chinese knockoffs that are just way too obvious. Fast food. Does this establishment look finger-licking good to you? Well, on a second look, you might notice that Colonel Sanders isn't looking quite like himself. In fact, his famous face has been completely replaced by a younger Chinese guy in a cap. And what is KFG meant to stand for? Kentucky Fried Ginger? Everything from the logo down to the three-letter name of this fast food joint is a blatant copy of KFC. And what's more, even the interior looks the same. But it's not the only joint trying to muscle in on the Colonel's turf. This utter abomination also shares the KFG name, but it's taken it a step further by changing the tagline from finger-licking good to the strangely suggestive nibble his chicken. I wouldn't touch those nuggets if I were you. Although, when it comes down to the taglines, no one makes it more obvious than China's KMC, who simply plastered KFC's phrase on their wall. But this isn't KFC's first rodeo with Chinese copycat cowboys. They've added their own Chinese market slogan in stores, which reads relaxed, friendly, authentic. It may be a chicken chain, but KFC isn't hiding its beef with these fakers. And it's not just the Colonel who's been undermined. The King has also been copied. That is, unless Burger King's Chinese franchises have changed their name to Cheeseburger. You'd have thought they'd have tried something a little more inventive. Like these guys who took it up a level to Texas Burger, and even added in the little copyright symbol in the corner. But guess what? Texas Burger is an entirely different copyrighted chain of burger joints based in, you'll never guess, Texas. That's one large copyright combo coming right up. Now, to get all that Texan heat out of your mouth, wouldn't you like something cool and delicious from Dairy Queen? Well, in China, this ice cream monarch has a blatant imposter sitting on the throne called Dairy Fairy. Almost everything about these stores mimics the cold cream queen, right down to the names of their products. You want a world-famous blizzard? Well, at Dairy Fairy, they'll serve you up a snowstorm. I don't know about you, but I was always taught not to eat the yellow snow. Up next, we have the real copycat clown. Just take a look at Wuzhou City bizarrely named burger joint Michael Alone. You may not recognize the name, but I bet you know those suspiciously shaped upside-down golden arches, or that strangely familiar clown mascot. I see Ronald McDonald's weird cousin just showed up to the party, but the best part about this McDonald's knockoff is the tagline. It hasn't quite got the same ring to it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm like it. Gotta say, I'm not loving it. To Michael Alone's credit, they did change their sign recently, but it wasn't to remove the arches. Instead, they just flipped the M in the name, changing it to Weichel Alone. I wonder if that means they sell Big Wax. But all of these pale in comparison to the sheer number of Chinese copycats that Starbucks has to deal with. The cafe's classic green, white, and black logo has seen some of the most brazenly obvious knockoffs, such as Sunbucks Coffee, USA Bucks Coffee, Jingbake Coffee Shop, and Qingdao Stars Buck Coffee F&B. What does F&B even stand for here? Fake and ballsy? The copycat trend got so out of hand that it even spread into the neighboring Korea, which set up, and brace yourself for this one, Star Coffee. That's just offensive. How dare they spell coffee that wrong? If you like your coffee like you like your YouTube videos, hot, fresh, and damn fine, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And don't think about reaching for the sugar, because I put out sweet new videos every day filled to the brim with freshly ground facts and superior quality stories. And speaking of quality, or lack thereof, let's take a look at even more of China's most obvious knockoffs. Stores. China really puts the convenience in conveniently looks like another brand, especially when it comes to their 7-Eleven ripoff. Granted, 7-Eleven's name comes from its extended opening hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., and this 7-12 seems to be named after that same logic. But that color palette and logo layout are unforgivably obvious copies. That's one big gulp of copyright infringement. Have you ever walked into a sneaker store, looked at the products, and thought, what if this isn't genuine Nike? Well, worry no more, because China has a bunch of knockoff Nike shoe stores under the oddly ticked Nike brand. The name change is almost sneaky enough to go unnoticed, with the B looking convincingly like a K. But what is up with that trademark tick? It looks like a duck that's been tipped forward. Maybe the odd shape is intentional so they can change their tagline to just duck it. But Nike aren't the only brand seeing sneaky sneaker knockoffs. One shameless copycat created an entire fake Yeezy store in the middle of Wenzhou City, complete with Yeezy founder Kanye West's cartoon as its logo. That's an insanely bold move considering that Yeezy don't have any dedicated stores yet. And even though they're fake, they still sport that real Yeezy price. Some of their basic boots rack up to about $150 a pair, but others, like these Flower Power fakes, reach a whopping $300. Forget running for president, Kanye might want to focus on running these guys out of town. However, the piece de resistance of China's shopfront scams has got to be this diamond in the rough. It may make you titter, but I doubt the CEOs of the prestigious Tiffany & Co. company are laughing about it. The high-class jewelers have had the style and color scheme of their brand taken by a tiny clothing store at a mall in Hong Kong. And thanks to an amazing mistranslation, the shop owners have made real boobs out of themselves with that name. Perhaps they realized the mistake they'd made and then whacked at the sign anyway just to make the best of a bad situation. Alcohol. China has a pretty serious problem with fake alcohol. Dangerous bathtub brewed booze with fake labels make up as much as a third of the country's alcohol. While some look convincing, others, like these bottles of Johnny Worker, are much easier to spot. I wonder if Johnny Worker has any relation to Johnny Walker, the famous Scotch whiskey distiller. Their red label whiskey is distilled, blended, and bottled in Scotland, but this red label stuff seems to have been distilled, blended, and olded in Yantai Tianchi. I've never heard of that part of Scotland before.
This must be that new geography.
Well, if that's put you off Johnny Walker, maybe stick to something safe, like old reliable Jack Daniels. Except the longer you look at this bottle of the iconic whiskey, the more wrong it gets. Despite the similar black and white style of the label, that doesn't say Jack Daniels. That says Jones Dance. And while Jack Daniels is made in Tennessee, this has been made in, Tenderness? Well, it actually lists a winery in Shandong, China as its source. But I bet they're hoping whoever drinks this is too drunk to tell the difference. Last up on the fake alcohol front, we have 2020 in a bottle. Serrano, a beer that looks a little too similar to Corona to be a coincidence. Not only does the label and name look near identical to this Mexican beer, but Serrano also claims to be a superior quality Mexico brand. And yet it's been made in Beijing? I have a lot of questions, but at least this beer ripoff won't be left untouched at the supermarket like its Western counterpart. Toys. The Star Wars franchise famously takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, but not far enough to stop China from ripping off their Lego line of merchandise. At first, this looks like a legitimate toy TIE fighter, complete with a stormtrooper mask and a range of nondescript figures from the series. But even with the copied font, it's not enough to distract from the name Space Wars. What's more, the iconic shape and color of the Lego logo has been copied by a company called Bela. That's two big brand name knockoffs in one. You've got to admit, that's impressive.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
But that's not the only disturbance in the force the franchise has felt. Just look at this bogus box. How are you even meant to say that? Star Winners? Star Winners? Star Wieners? At least Lego lookalike Lepin is a little easier on the tongue, even if it is a forgery. Even though some Chinese Lego knockoffs can look like the real deal, there's one franchise that definitely doesn't. With its helmet of hair, oddly lidded eyes, and creepy expression, this toy looks more like the kind of stranger your mom told you not to talk to than comedy legend Mr. Bean. As I'm sure you've guessed, it wasn't Lego behind this terrifying knickknack, but a Chinese knockoff company called Jia Li Bao, who also copied the red square design of Lego's logo. It was based on the family-friendly animated adventures of Mr. Bean, but I don't think a reputable toy manufacturer would think this demonic design was appropriate for kids. But kids don't just have illegitimate Lego to worry about, as proven by this creepy Pikachu and SpongeBob SquarePants collaboration. Wish you have a nice day? I sure won't after seeing that abomination. Counterfeit kids shows characters often wind up mashed together in a terrifying mix of faces, body parts, and names to be as disturbingly recognizable as possible. Like this pack of Super S heroes. Even though you can see Mr. Incredible and Power Rangers on the packaging, the contents make no sense. I mean, you got Spider-Man, Superman with a chin-strap beard, Batman, who has seen some things, a couple of insanely shredded Power Rangers, and this guy. Who is he meant to be? The Crimson Chin? The Scarlet Sucker Punch? The Knockoff Knight? Have you got any better names? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever seen the Titanic movie? You know, the one set in 1912 where a boat peacefully traversing the North Atlantic suddenly changes into a transformer and fights a giant iceberg? Oh, wait, did it not have a transformer in it? Then how do you explain the Titanic bot? That's right. Made in China, someone there clearly thought the tragic tale of the sunken ship would make a sick transformer toy for the kids. I guess that's one way to teach them about history. But if you thought it was just boys' toys China would botch so badly, take a good look at the outstandingly named Blandness Girl mobile phone toy. Between the Disney font and blonde Barbie cartoon, it's pretty clear what vibe they were going for. But there seems to have been a breakdown in communication around the name. I know Barbie has a personality that's about as deep as a puddle, but Blandness Girl is putting it way too bluntly. And once more, the front of the phone says Benign Girl. While it can mean kind or compassionate, it's also a word used to classify cancerous tumors. I wonder if she has a best friend called Malignant Margaret. Food. Because absolutely nothing is sacred anymore, some of your favorite branded snacks have also had the Chinese copycat treatment. M&M's used to have a classic simple packaging like this, but they made it too easy to rip off, as China's own version of the snack had an almost identical package with the two M's flipped upside down. I wonder if the guy who designed this is the same one who did Michael Alone's logo. Now, if it's a nutty chocolate treat on the go that you're craving, you might confuse your pot of Nutella and Go with China's matter-of-factly named Chocolate Good. This ripoff takes it to a whole other level. Not only did they steal the entire color and font design from Nutella, they also plastered their crappy copy logo over the same Nutella pot. Look, the breadsticks are in the exact same position. The bad English tagline, delicious to share with you, makes no sense. And as if they couldn't get any lazier, the brand name is literally just chocolate. That really puts the sweet in sweet. Jesus! Oreo, the famous cream-filled chocolate biscuit sandwich, has some god-tier struggles when it comes to companies ripping off its design, from Indonesia's Goreng to Egypt's Boreo, and, most problematically of all, Portugal's Black Power. Oh boy.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
But it's the Chinese knockoffs that really take the biscuit. From the packet, Oleaos look like any other blue and white Oreo knockoff, but it gets worse when you open them. Unlike a real Oreo, they don't have Oleao's name baked onto the top of them, and they're all woefully underfilled with cream. But China didn't stop with just one knockoff. Ords are another shameless copy of Oreo's sweet sandwich cookie right down to the font. They also come in another nightmarish-looking flavor. What do you think that bright red filling could be? Strawberry? Raspberry? Communism? Let me know in the comments below. Now, the most audacious of all these food forgeries is one that already defies belief. I Can't Believe It's Not Butter is an American margarine brand with a name that was just too good for China not to hilariously mistranslate. Unbelievable This Is Not Butter is a copycat spread that's made all the better by its lack of trans fats, cholesterol, and punctuation. Health. When it comes to health, many people invest in the best products to look after themselves. But in China, that can be difficult, seeing how similar some counterfeit products look. Just look at brands like Creve, C-Teeth, and Clippy. Anything stand out to you? Like how they look suspiciously similar to Crest and Colgate? Especially when they're compared like this. The tiny yellow banner in the corner there reads New Breakthrough, which is probably referring to the plagiarized packaging, rather than the paste itself. One thing's for sure, it isn't referring to that monumentally uninventive name. I mean, C-Teeth? Really? If you're looking for a run-of-the-mill shampoo without all the bells and whistles, then maybe this Chinese knockoff is the one for you. Okay, shampoo may look like an average anti-dandruff cleanser, but it's actually got a dirty secret. It's a clear counterfeit of skincare giant Olay's body wash products, right down to the placement of the logo. Aside from the name, there's nothing okay about this blatant ripoff. Clothes. When it comes to clothes, China is the absolute king of counterfeits. The fake markets of Beijing and Shanghai are so notorious that they've become a tourist hotspot in recent years, with some of their products near impossible to tell apart from the real things. Although some products, like these iPhone-branded boots, stand out for all the wrong reasons. While Apple has been expanding out into wearable tech for some time, I don't think this is what they had in mind. But it could be worse. Just ask sports brand Puma with this colossal copycat fail. They've not even bothered to try and change the font. And while it's not uncommon to see a puma leaping and lunging, China's national animal, the panda, isn't exactly known for its athleticism. It's not the only unexpected animal to be found in the counterfeit scene. In a weird but bold fashion move, the UK cartoon character Peppa Pig has become a high-fashion fakery focus. Popular Chinese stars like Angelababy and Yang Mi sported the little pink pig on their shirts back in 2017. It encouraged counterfeiters to ride the trend wave and start intertwining the cartoon with faux labels like Chanel, Dior, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton. The bizarre brand overlap even made it onto bucket hats. And to be honest, looking at some of their other weird haute couture hats, it doesn't look totally out of place. Although, when it comes to faux fashion, no one suffers quite as much as American skateboarding brand Supreme, or Super Me if you're in China. This dubious misspelling and similar styling makes it onto everything from sandals to t-shirts. But these misspelt knockoffs are the least of Supreme's problems. Back in 2019, a huge Supreme megastore opened up in the middle of Shanghai. On the surface, it seemed legitimate, until you read the slogan that was plastered on the wall. "We're just having fun, we don't care who see." Being a billion-dollar company, you'd think Supreme could afford to check their grammar. So it might not surprise you to learn that this entire megastore is one mega knockoff. In fact, Supreme didn't even have a trademark in China until 2020. But when fans of the brand saw the inside of the fake store compared to its authentic New York counterpart, they were left jealous. Some even said they preferred the interior of the fake brand store over the real one. Which do you think looks better? Tech. Technology is where China's counterfeit market truly outdoes itself. Some of the knockoffs look so good that they can make even the real ones look fake. But when they fail, they look spectacularly wrong. Like these counterfeit iPhones, or should I call them iPairs. Aside from the pear-shaped logo making them stand out, they also sport a website at their bottom. Sadly, it no longer seems to be in service, although putting your website on this blatant forgery took a serious pair. But it's not the worst iPhone forgery that exists. Say hello to the Goo Apple, a Frankenstein phone designed to look like an iPhone running Google's Android operating system with an iOS interface. To some, it looks like the best of both worlds, but others see it as a high-tech abomination. Which category do you think it falls into? What you may not know is that the Goo apple isn't Google's first counterfeit cross-brand conundrum, although I hope this one is the last. You're looking at the logo for Guji.com, a Chinese knockoff search engine. You probably recognize the style of the letters from the old Google logo, but that blue paw comes from Baidu.com, another search engine that's more popular in China. It first appeared back in 2010 after Google threatened to pull out of the Chinese market. Just days later, Guji was up and running. They didn't even wait until Google's Chinese grave was cold. And speaking of graves, not even death will dissuade China from copying a product, as this banner horrendously shows. It's advertising a knockoff iPad called the Action Pad, held by Asia's answer to the famously dead Steve Jobs. From the trademark black turtleneck to the closely cropped hair and spectacles, it's so obviously meant to be the American tech entrepreneur who passed away in 2011. And that's not a detail they conveniently forgot about. Just look at the angel wings and halo. While I don't think this is Steve talking to China beyond the grave, I do think he's probably spinning in his. Films. When most people think of piracy, the images that spring to mind is illegally downloading films or buying bootleg DVDs from black market street vendors. But the Chinese film industry is copying much more than that, and the proof is in the posters. Take The Ides of March, for example. It was a 2011 political drama that featured Ryan Gosling and George Clooney, and its promotional poster was cleverly designed to reflect the two-faced nature of the political world. But later, that very same year, China released the cheaply produced Laonan Renli Shanji, with a very familiar promo photo. While it followed the tale of two men, it didn't have anything to do with politics, and the alternative posters displayed what the film really entailed: friendship and death. Looks like they were just trying to steal a little of the Ides of March's shine and success, seeing as it made almost $78 million worldwide at the box office. Another copy casualty was the 2009 poster for Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes movie. It made a staggering $524 million at the box office that year, thanks in part to its well-designed promotional images. The bluish paneled wall and murky-looking fog gave off the feeling of a grimy Victorian-era England. But in 2011, an unrelated Chinese TV series called Detective Tonglong used this exact same style backdrop. Did they think no one would notice? It's a detective show, for crying out loud. Although posters for kids' films and animations have been just as easy to copy. Cars 2 was released in 2011 by American company Disney to the joy of many fans. But just 4 years later, the shamelessly similar The Autobots rolled out onto China's silver screens. To add insult to injury, the Autobots creator insisted that he had never seen any movies in the Cars franchise before. I'll believe that once Disney's lawsuit with them is settled. But the animation knockoff station has one final departure, in the form of the smash hit Zootopia. In a world once again created by America's Disney, the promotional poster shows a reimagined urban jungle inhabited by human-like animals. It's perfectly fun, bright, and kid-friendly. So when the film Crazy Toy City was released in China in 2016, they simply lifted the promotional poster's entire layout. Looking at the two side by side, it's impossible to miss the similarities. The crosswalk sign, the street sign, the shape of the main character's ears, even the angle the image is taken from. But the film's producers, MSI and Wuhan Digital Media, have insisted that Crazy Toy City is entirely original. I'll believe that when I sprout bunny ears and a tail.